What's up everyone, it's Rob from the Basement Bike Shop, and in this video I'm going to show you how to build a BMX manual machine. Now a manual machine is used to dial in your manuals by finding your balance point. Now I'm going to show you two different ways to build this. One is the more portable version, in which you put a couch or a bed behind you and you just fall back into it. And the other is the one where you have your front wheel tied up with a strap or a rope. Before we get started, I just want to say circular saws and miter saws can be dangerous. Make sure that you know what you're doing before you operate these power tools. Keep your fingers clear of the blade. A circular saw blade spins backwards, so if it pinches, it'll kick back into you. And kids, don't try this at home without an adult present. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is cut the back 2x6 to 17 inches. And then I'm going to get a piece of plywood. The one I found is 6.5 by 2 feet, but it could be 2 feet by 2 feet. You'll see in a minute. And then I'm going to screw the 2x6 in the center of the plywood and square, flush with the back of it. Then I'm going to put the back tire of the bike onto it to measure. You can put some storage containers around the front tire to prop it up so it holds the bike up straight. Now I'm going to bring my side 2x4 in, and to see how long I'm going to cut it, I'm going to put a square against the back piece to make sure that it's square and the back tire is against it all the way, and then put a chunk of 2x6 in the front that'll represent the front piece. And then I'm just going to mark it with a pencil. And then we'll cut those to that size. Now to get our front piece, that'll be the exact width of our tire. And maybe make it a little bit bigger. But how you do that is put two 2x4s along your tire. Make sure they hit in two spots so that they run parallel. And then measure the distance between the two. And then estimate up a little bit. I went 3.25, just a little bit bigger. And then I cut that piece. And then I cut the two side pieces, which came to 21 inches each. And then I cut a 2-foot board for the back brace, and I 45'd the corners. You don't have to, but for the next piece you will have to 45. And I just use my speed square for that. Again, if you don't have experience using a circular saw, please get somebody who does. So then I cut two diagonal braces, 45 degrees on each side, and they're 18 inches long on the long side. And then two front braces, they didn't have to be 45, but they are because I just used the cutoffs off of my diagonal braces. So we're going to take our two 21-inch sideboards and mark them at 11 inches from the front. And that's where we're going to attach our side braces. And we're doing that at 11 inches because we do not want it in front of our peg. Otherwise you'll hit it with your heel as your crank comes around. And then we're just going to screw those in and make it flush with the bottom of the side brace so that everything on the bottom is flat. After we get those screwed in, we're going to take them and attach them to our bottom and back piece. We're going to take our front 3.25 inch piece and use that as a spacer throughout this whole thing, and then attach it to the front at the end. So right now I'm just clamping it together so it all holds while I do this. And I'll screw them into the back first. Then after that, I'll turn it upside down and screw the side 2x4s into the bottom. And then every so often, take your bike, put it in the stand, make sure that everything's fitting correctly. Not that you get all the way done and realize that it's all messed up. Now we're going to clamp our 3.25 inch front board into the center of our back piece. Measure to make sure that it's exactly in the center. And then we're going to bring in our diagonal braces and screw those in. And how I did that is I screwed into the back first. After that, I used a drill bit big enough for the head of my screw and drilled into the front part way through, just so that my screw would bite into the bottom 21-inch 2x4. And I also put another screw in front of that too. And you could use like metal clips, or some people drill pocket screws, but this is just what I had, so this is how I did it. After that, we're going to bring the bike back in, slide it into the stand, and get the final measurement on where the front piece is going to go. The reason I'm showing it to you like this and not just yelling out the numbers of everything that needs to be cut is you can use this method to make a manual stand for your mountain bike or your fat bike or anything, as long as you just use the bike, figure out how long everything's got to be, and then cut each piece individually. Now, because this front 2x6 is so small, I'm going to want to pre-drill it just so that my screws don't split it when I put them in. And I'll do the top ones first and then pull my clamp off and then do the bottom ones. And then lastly, we'll put the back brace on, and we'll do that flush with the bottom of the plywood. And then we're just going to screw a couple of scrap pieces of plywood to our center braces. Now, if you used a 2 foot by 2 foot piece of plywood, you obviously don't need to screw those little pieces of plywood on there. And that's about it for our portable version of the manual machine. You just put it in front of your couch or bed, and that way, if you fall backwards, you can just land on something soft. It's not a big deal. For the full version, we're actually going to use the exact same one. We're just going to add a couple things, starting with a 5.5 foot 2x6 for the bottom. Then I'm going to pull the plywood off of the bottom of our portable manual machine, and the back brace too, because we have to raise it up. I'm going to set my bike in it to make sure that I like the distance. And I left about 10.5 inches hanging off the back. The next thing I'm going to do is screw down one side of the back, and then take my speed square and make sure that it's square with the bottom 2x6. And then put the other screw in the back. After that, I can pull the front over to the center of the bottom 2x6. And then screw it down. And then just put the rest of my screws in the bottom. I think I put 8 total in the bottom. Then we're going to attach our back brace tight to the bottom 2x6, which will make it the same height as our side braces. After we get it centered, we'll screw it into the back first. And then we'll screw it in from the bottom. After that, we're going to take two 2x4s or 2x6s, whatever you have, and screw them to the braces so that it's the same height as the 2x6. I found that this was the easiest way to do it, and it worked really well. Actually, in hindsight, I could have left the bottom plywood on and screwed it all to the 2x6. And then just put a piece of plywood under the front tire. Then I could have just taken it on and off of this whenever I wanted to. But it's fine. After that, we're going to turn it over, bring our bike back in, and figure out where we're going to attach the rope to the bottom 2x6. Now you can use any kind of clip you have laying around your house. I just found this piece of metal. I'm not actually sure what it's even for. But you can mount it behind your tire, because when you go into a manual, your tire is going to be back a little further. And that way your tire won't come down on it and pop it or anything. Then I'm just going to screw it into the center of the 2x6. And then we're going to attach the rope or the strap. Now I know people who've used duffel bag straps or things like that. I guess it really doesn't matter. I'm using a piece of rope I found. I think it's anchor rope. Just as long as it doesn't scratch your rim or anything like that. Now I'm going to lift my bike up to the point where I want it to max out at and tie the rope on to there. Now remember that when you are in your manual and finding your balance point, you don't want the rope tight. You want it set a little bit further than that so that when you are trying to balance, there's nothing interfering. Make sure I tie my knot good enough so I don't crack my head on the ground. And I think we're done. Overall, I think it's a good design. Help you find your balance point. The only issue I have is that with the chain on, you can put weight against your front pedal, which you can't do in the field. For it to work properly, you have to take your chain off. That'll allow your crank to spin freely, which would be a little more realistic to actually doing a manual in the field. But this got me to thinking, is there a way that I can make a manual stand in which I can leave my chain on and my back tire can spin freely? And that sparked the birth of the invention of the Manual Machine 2.0, aka the Mega Manual Machine. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how to build it. If you like my videos so far, you can go ahead and subscribe and I'll keep these videos coming. If you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, you can leave a comment below or you can send me an email. Thanks for watching.